So, if you're a fan of Science Experiment, which is the collab between TroubleTro and Mr. Internet Man, you may have to wait a week longer than usual. Or at least that's what TroubleTro told somebody in a recent reply comment. Because apparently, unlike his other conclusions to his other webcomics, they are webcomics he's done on his own or in various collabs, like with Mr. Internet Man, this one's going to be double the length. In other words, it's going to be bigger in size. Now, what that means, in the long term, who knows? Because basically, most of the stories that he or anybody else does when it comes to these webcomics, the average length for most of them is basically about, I would say, I would go along the limbs of saying maybe 12 pages. That's about it. 12 to 10 page, or 10 to 12 pages, 15 at most, but mostly 12 to 10 pages. Now, he says it's going to be basically double that length. Well, at least alluding to the fact that it's going to be. And what that means basically to me is he plans to really, if this is a one-time deal, because, he did say it was in 2 parts, which basically means last week, with part 19 and part 20 here. But, what that means in the long run, could mean that he's basically planning to, do a lot with this. Because we know that, at the conclusion of the last one, the girl, the scientist that, became the black latex liquid drone girl, who basically turned herself into a car after running into a pillar. While the other one that was in the red latex basically turned herself into a seductress that was going to basically pose as the passenger, with her hinting that she would love to rub herself on the other girl's hood of the car that she's become. Now, whether or not we see something like that happen, in the upcoming story, in the upcoming chapter, I don't know. But I will say this, the one thing I will say about it is if the plan, according to TroubleTro, if the current plan is to lengthen, the length of, of the story from, I'm assuming, double or even triple of what it was, or what it originally is, uploaded as, if the plan basically is to, go in that direction, to conclude, then obviously he has something big in mind. Or obviously TroubleTro has something big in mind along with Mr. Internet Man. Now, Mr. Internet Man, he's no stranger to being part of long stories. That is a fact. In fact, when he does collabs with the likes of ARY01, sometimes, he'll be the starting point of said story, and ARY01 will be the conclusion. And sometimes the conclusion could be a lot longer than what Mr. Internet Man provided as the first part. So, so to me, it's not going to be anything new to Mr. Internet Man, nor do I think it's going to be anything new to TroubleTro. It's just going to be something he hasn't, or TroubleTro hasn't really, done in a while, from a length standpoint, when it comes to doing everything and putting everything that you want into the story. Sometimes, the final part of a story or the final half of a story, the various chapters and everything that come, afterwards and stuff, like in the second half of it, sometimes are 4 or 5 pages longer than the normal trend, if you will. But it sounds like if this is the conclusion, like I said, it feels like the fact that they want to lengthen the story to a longer, I guess you could say, a longer viewership and readership. That to me, that'll be a benefit. There'll be no doubt. That'll be a benefit for a lot of people that want to probably, go back and take their time with it, reading it and looking at it. So that will be a benefit. But I also know it's going to be, it's going to call for a lot of patience, if you will, on Mr. Internet Man, on both Mr. Internet Man's part and TroubleTro's part. I mean, this would explain why, honestly, TroubleTro's taking a break off of things like pink benefits and anything you want and all that, and is now primarily focused on Nurse Gemma, I think that's what it is, Nurse Gemma, and of course Science Experiment here. Because they want to basically get these stories out of the way before focusing, on resuming the other stories that they, currently, known for, like pink benefits, anything you want, and some of the other stories, maybe even some of new original stories that they have planned. But, to me, there's an old saying called patience is everything. And that sometimes the wait is, and that, basically there's the old saying of, patience is everything, and, the wait is worth it in the end. So to me, this will be worth the wait. Because, again, if this is the conclusion, and he wants to put a lot in there, then I say go for it. I mean, to go back to somebody I would support on DeviantArt called Grey Pythenia. She did the story. I don't know if she's still working on it on her spare time, but there's a story series on DeviantArt that she did called What Dreams May Become. And yes, it is a shapeshifter story. But what was interesting is when we got to, when we got to chapter 5 of it, it was a very interactive story for the fans. Because, long story short, we had to reach, I think she had a goal of reaching so many viewerships or readerships or subscriptions or whatever, and she said if that was to happen, that she would have everybody, be involved, with the story. She would basically take everybody's ideas and incorporate it into the story in some way. And originally, she was only planning it to be for one chapter, on its own, which would have been chapter 5, I think. But because all of us had submitted so many ideas, if you will, in the process, that she decided to expand it to being a lot longer than originally planned. And instead, we had a chapter 5.1 and a chapter 5.2. And everybody's ideas, including mine that was submitted, were utilized in some capacity. And, and to me, that's kind of what I've seen right here, in a way, with TroubleTro and Mr. Internet Man. Like, they know for right now, unless they come back and explore this later on in a sequel, they know for right now that this is, pretty much it. But they have so many ideas, they have so many ideas, and everything that they want to utilize, that they realize that it would take more than just the average, submittance of 10 to 11 to 12 pages to, 15 at most, but mostly the they know it would take more than the standard 10 to 12 page submittance that they usually do for the webcomics to get it all out there. So to me, it kind of reminds me of that basically, they have so many ideas, they come to realize that they're going to have to double, if not triple, the length of the story, from what they originally planned to something much longer. I mean, I'll put it this way, think along the lines of Nextstat. Nextstat is known to basically combine their chapters together every time they do a new chapter. Like, they'll give you the initial 10 to 11 pages of the next chapter of a story, but when you go to download it, you're just re-downloading what you downloaded previously, but now it has the additional updated new 10 to 11 pages added on. And it's, like I said, similar to that in a way, if you will. But I don't know honestly if TroubleTro will go that route when it's all said and done and basically say, hey, here's all 20 plus chapters of Science Experiment for you guys to download in one big comic deal. I don't know if they're going to go that route or not. But what's interesting, and I've mentioned this before, and I think they know what they're doing. Honestly, I think they do know what they're doing. The timing of this couldn't be any better. Because if the plan is to get it out there by early next week, maybe by the end of this week or so on, the timing couldn't be better because next week, as far as I know, hold on for a sec. As far as I know, next week, next Sunday at least, that's the last day of the month. But Monday, which this usually comes out in, is going to be May 1st. And that means the beginning of the annual yearly Melting May theme. So the timing to me is ironic. Because if this is going to be double, if not triple the length it was, it usually is, I should say, then the plan is to release it around next week. Like I said, the timing couldn't be better, and I think TroubleTro and Mr. Internet Man know that. Because if the primary thing here is the girls loving to go gooey and melty and all that, then what better time to close it out than at the beginning of May, the beginning of the Melting May, theme, if you will, which will see a lot of artists and writers doing their own interpretations, of Melting May, whether it's with stories, artistic work, whatever the case is. May 1st, we'll start to see the beginnings of that. You go to DeviantArt, you go to Ink Bunny, you go to Furfiniat, you go to, Dirty Burrow, if you will, or Dirty Burrow, if you will. Places like that, you're going to see a lot, and I mean a lot, of these stories, out and about, and artwork out and about. One artist like I follow, and I mentioned this in the review I recorded before this, Dizzy Arts, Michelle, is just about ready next week to release the third installment of the Melting May series, which is a Melting May series that they do annually. And they already have ideas set in their minds for the fourth installment in 2024. But yeah, to me, the timing couldn't be any more ironic, and I'm wondering if that's what they were shooting for. Because of, again, the way these girls like to get now, from a liquidy, gooey standpoint. I'm just wondering. But yeah, in closing, guys, like me, if you are following TroubleTro or Povro 22, which is POVAR 22 here on YouTube, POVAR22 here on YouTube. If you're following them and supporting them on Patreon, as well as you follow Mr. Internet Man on DeviantArt, then, you know, to me, the wait that we're going to have for the next week or so, or this upcoming week, it'll be worth it. And who knows, maybe we might get a sneak peek here and there. Who knows? But to me, the wait is going to be worth it. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here, let you know that if you are following and supporting TroubleTro, POVAR22 here on YouTube, if you are following them and Mr. Internet Man, and you're invested in this series, you just got one more week to wait, because apparently the ending is going to be double, if not triple, than the average upload normally is. And maybe we'll get a sneak peek, like I said. But let me know what your thoughts are. What are you looking forward to the most in this? What are you hoping happens? Let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to you all later.